And good morning. We are live on YouTube. So let me bring in our Facebook communities here. We are Atlanta Falcons fans on All Falcons, and then Scott Kennedy Sports are the two Facebook communities we stream to. So let me save on those and get them going. And welcome in. This is Forging the Falcons. I am Scott Kennedy. This is Nick Kendall on this side. I am in Atlanta. Nick is in Seattle, so he's up bright and early to join us. Nick is a football connoisseur and enjoys the draft process and the general manager process at least as much as I do or did. I'm about 2 decades older than him. So, still bright and fresh and always provides some third-party insight for the guys. And what we want to talk about today, stuff that our regulars have heard us say before and some things change. But I want to go over the Atlanta Falcons' biggest needs and how they can try and address them in this draft. We're 6 days away. 6 days away. Next Thursday, 8 o'clock Eastern, the Falcons will be on the clock at number 8 if they decide to stay there. Nick, how are you doing this morning, my friend?
I'm doing well. It's Friday. It looks like we're going to have decent weather as today closes out and Saturday. So excited for that. And we are legitimately less than a week away now. I mean, we keep saying that, but now for me, it's even more real because the Broncos draft on Friday. So excited about that and excited to talk a little bit of Falcons today. I'm really excited, happy to be joining also on this Falcons channel because the Broncos are heading in a different direction than the Falcons. And like you mentioned, I really do enjoy the team building process, and no team is down to this studs and bolts and bits and bobs as much as the Atlanta Falcons are. So really starting from the ground up, and curious to see how this all goes and longitudinally follow this team building process with the Falcons.
Yeah, it's good. If you're a general manager, you're in a tough spot with the salary cap. But honestly, if you're in a general manager like Terry Fontenot of the Atlanta Falcons and you've got the backing of your owner, this is a dream job. You get to build your own team free of egos, free of franchise players for the most part. And the two franchise guys you might not have drafted, AJ Terrell, but you did draft Kyle Pitts. I think those are the two franchise guys right now on the roster. Grady Jarrett is still here for now, but it's basically, let's build this team from scratch, almost like an expansion team. And the last expansion team Arthur Blank had, he took them to a championship in 2 years. Now, that was Atlanta United. Now, not saying that's going to happen. Let's pump the brakes on this because you're starting with a few more handicaps. But it should be a lot of fun building this team. And that's why we are doing Forging the Falcons. I want to say good morning to some folks in the chat as you are coming in. Hit that like button, the share. Give us a retweet. Actually, it reminds me. I wanted to hit the Twitter button on this to let people know on Twitter that we were here. And I'll probably retweet this one also. So if you see me at Scout Kennedy and you see me on there, go ahead and hit that retweet button. Help bring in more Falcons fans and fans of the process just like you. So good morning, Franklin. DWI guys coming up from England. Good morning. Appreciate you being here. As always, Luke says, I enjoy y'all's mock drafts. Well, we enjoy doing them, and we'll probably finish with a mock draft. After we talk about addressing these needs and how it can be done, we'll see how feasible, at least Pro Football Focus board thinks that we can do. EJ says, good morning, Nick and Scott. I love the chains on Travon Walker. I put him front and center today on the thumbnail. I put him right in the middle because that's the guy I probably 1 and 8. I don't know if he'll be able to get there. I don't know if he gets past 1, but there's a chance. There's a chance that he could drop to 8. Malik Willis, maybe. Garrett Wilson, I put him on the other side. Wide receiver, quarterback. That's the thing about the Falcons is they have needs everywhere. US Dave, thank God it's Friday, Falcons. Cody coming in. I don't recognize the name, so welcome. Hit that like button on the way in. Appreciate you being here today. Keith Robbins, good morning, good morning. So let's get into this. When you've got a team with needs everywhere, it's hard to say what the biggest needs are, but knowing what the strengths of this draft are, Nick, how would you want to try and address the biggest needs on this team? What would you say the biggest needs are relative to what might be available in this draft at number 8 and beyond?
Well, the biggest needs on this team, and it's true for every team, it's the first question you always have to ask when you look at a team is, does this team have the long-term answer at quarterback? And the answer is No, it's just no. I know they drafted Felipe Franks last year. Maybe I think
No,
why I
actually, he
don't
was
know.
an undrafted free agent.
Undrafted. Okay, go. Well,
Yeah, so that's
that makes me
kind of
feel
where he
better.
belonged, and that's where he
Yep.
went.
Yeah, you brought in Josh Rosen. You have Marcus Mariota. Well, none of those guys are the long-term answer. But the thing about the Falcons is this team is, like we mentioned earlier, a ways off. Unfortunately, the offensive line not good. Wide receivers edge rusher, defensive tackles not great. So this is a team that, while you don't have your franchise quarterback yet, if there's a guy that falls to you at 8 that you absolutely adore and he is your guy, then take it, because
Mhm.
you might be picking earlier next year. But guess what? If you already have your franchise quarterback, instead of taking a quarterback there, you trade down, let somebody else come
Right.
and get it, and then talk about off to the moon from there, off to the races with building your team, because you'll have a lot of draft picks. You remember what the Dolphins got for Trey Lance, that kind of thing. That would be big if you already had your quarterback in place. That said, this class, maybe that's not the case. I don't personally think anybody but Malik Willis I would even consider for a top 20 pick in this class, and top 10 makes me a little bit uneasy. So I wouldn't go there. After that, then it becomes pretty obvious to me value positions, and specifically trench players. Offensive tackle, edge rusher, maybe defensive tackle, maybe cornerback as well, some of those positions, but edge and offensive tackle are blinking lights to me. Those are the positions you should go to.
Yep. And good morning, Mark Schrader, coming in from Texas. Appreciate you being here too. And we'll see if my friend called me at 9:29. He says, "Hey, I just wanted to kill some time." I'm like, "I got the perfect idea for you. Why don't you join us in our live pod?" So we're not. I always say us Gen X white guys only had a few names to pick from. He's a Scott also. So Scott, if you're here, welcome in. Um, I agree with you on several points on this. If you love the quarterback, if he's there at 8, yeah, then you're okay.
Yeah.
However, is that one of the biggest needs on the team? Marcus Mariota is serviceable.
Mhm.
He is. He's serviceable. He's not. It's not a dire need. I mean, he is he the long term answer? Probably not. Could he be? Maybe. In the right circumstances, did anybody think that Ryan Tannehill was going to be a longer term answer when he ended up playing for Arthur Smith in Tennessee? Probably not. And then he ended up being like the 5th most efficient, top 3 most efficient quarterbacks, which helped land Arthur Smith a head coaching job with the Atlanta Falcons. So, is that the guy? But I don't think it's as big a need. It's not a must. You got to find a quarterback this year.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a must-have. Wide receiver is a huge, huge need. The guys that are there are, they're okay. They're third, fourth guy, practice squad, reserve pros, journeyman. But if you don't have your quarterback, and if you're not sure that Marcus Mariota is the guy, and if you draft one, he's not going to be the guy this year, and your offensive line play is still really bad, and you can't stop anybody on defense, what good is a wide receiver going to do you this year? How's he going to help?
Yeah, I mean, you still want to get wide receivers in there. I mean, we're seeing what's happening right now with the market of wide
Mhm.
receivers going absolutely insane. You have Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams being traded and resetting the market. You have Christian Kirk, of all people, getting an absolutely stupid deal. Thanks, Jacksonville. And now you have 3 of the 4 top wide receivers from that 2019 class, Terry McLaurin, AJ Brown, and Debo Samuel all holding out, and Debo even requesting a trade. And there's some talk of even trading DK Metcalf. So you do want to get a wide receiver in there. It's just I don't think there's not a Jalen Waddle in this class. There's not a Jamar Chase in this class. And if there was somebody who was this dynamic, no doubt number 1 wide receiver, I would be pushing back against you a little bit more than
Mhm.
I have been. But I don't see that guy. I think if Jamison Williams had not gotten hurt, I would probably be fighting you a bit, because
Mhm.
there's talks about wide receivers and fits and everything like that. You know what fits every team? Speed.
Mhm.
And especially speed on the perimeter. It changes what you can do offensively, creates space. It's like having a good 3-point shooter in basketball. And if Jamison Williams didn't get injured, then maybe. For me, maybe. But Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Treylon Burks, Drake London, these guys all seem like either they're at best, I think, 1Bs. And you want
Right.
3 good wide receivers, but I don't see a Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, and you mentioned the 3-point shooter, but 3-point shooters are specialists. They're not the ones that go. You can find shooters, you can find speed, but can he do the other things as well? Does he have good body control? Is he physical? Yeah, and he ticks most of those boxes too.
Yeah.
if there's Julio Jones or AJ Green, Jamar Chase in this group, an Andre Johnson, one of my favorites. I think he playing in Houston for so long, he was kind of overlooked a little bit, but Andre Johnson was a beast. Those type of guys, then okay, Calvin Johnson, obviously. Okay, but I don't see that guy. And the guys that they've been mocking, like, oh, the Falcons need a wide receiver. I've seen like 5 different receivers mocked to the Falcons. I'm like, well, then why would I take one at 8? You guys can't even decide which one would be the best fit here. Why would I take one of those guys at 8? Why wouldn't I, at worst, trade down and pick up somebody else? Or at best, wait, and hope that I can, everybody else gets these guys and maybe I get someone else on the back end. There's just so many decent, good wide receivers in here, and basically any one of them would help you, that I don't see it. And Todd Black coming in saying, good morning from Middle Georgia. Appreciate you being here, Todd. Good to see you.
Good fish.
Corey Dawkins comes in with a good comment. He says, I think we should build the rest of the team before going quarterback. No point in taking a rookie QB if you have a bad defense, no pass catchers, or no line to protect him. Yeah, I agree. Unless, you love the guy like it's Trevor Lawrence. If it was Trevor Lawrence sitting there today, I'd say take him. Andrew Luck, take him. If it's a surefire, bona fide number 1 quarterback, well, he's going number 1 in this class, then yes, I would be all about taking that guy and then trying to build around him. But I don't see that guy.
Yeah,
I don't see him. And if you miss on this quarterback, you wasted a chance to get a really good player. Because with Chris, I'm here also. And he says, good morning, guys. Good morning, Chris. He says, defensive end is our biggest need. And in this case, I think he means edge. Because Dean Pease's base is a 3-4. And the DL, the 3-4 defensive end, to me, DL, they're almost defensive tackle types. But in this case, edge. Watching the Falcons during the year, for me, the 3 biggest needs at premium positions, because they were premium positions, were edge, any kind of pass rush, right tackle, and cornerback. The cornerback on the opposite side of A.J. Terrell, because Fabian Moreau was terrible. And between him and an edge, you couldn't seal the edge. Guys had free runs on their side of the field. So edge, corner, I think, Nick, they addressed the short-term cornerback position. I think that's been addressed short-term with Casey Hayward.
And Isaiah Oliver. Yeah, I agree with you. Just trenches in general. You got to get those premium positions. And back to Dakari Dawkins, talking about, ideally, you are correct, but it's an opportunity thing. I agree. And I agree with you too, Scott. If there was a Trevor Lawrence or an Andrew Luck, then you take him at 8, but they wouldn't be there at 8. But if your staff identifies one of these quarterbacks as a dude and you have to have him, then sometimes that happens. I would hedge against that in this class specifically, but you have to talk about that possibility, that reality. And the thing about the bad defense, no pass catchers, offensive line, I think any quarterback you take in this class, especially anyone that's worth top 10 pick in my book, which would be Malik Willis, you have the ability to make Marcus Mariota, unfortunately for him, a sacrificial lamb this season. Take the lumps, give Malik Willis time. Oh, he's not quite ready yet, but we love him when we're going to see him. No, it's because we're afraid we're going to get him killed because the infrastructure around him is not very good. And then you can look at 2023 and go from there and start to build around him. I think that's a very small possibility. I think you're way more likely to trade down or take any other position, nearly any other position at 8, but still something to ponder and think about, because the value of the quarterback, your train doesn't leave the station until you have that quarterback. Until then, you're just meandering aimlessly through the NFL landscape.
And Chris coming in saying, I mean, a defensive end is in, a 275-pound defensive end that can set an edge and move an offensive lineman. Is that guy in this scheme, though? Right now in a 3-4, it's basically a giant nose guard flanked by 2 defensive tackles. Grady Jarrett is a defensive end in this scheme. And then, Marlon Davidson. Those are usually 300-pounders. You got a guy about 350 and then it's flanked by 2 300s. And then you've got 2 edges. Now, if I can get an edge like Travon Walker, who's knocking on the door at 275. He's 260, isn't he, Nick?
Travon Walker was at Georgia at about 280. He might be about 270, 265. But he's definitely
ideal, which is why I put him front and center. Yeah, he came in at 265, 272.
Yeah.
So
he can be that type.
He's an edge. He's an edge that happens to be 275, but he's on the outlier of that side. He's on the big side of this with the athleticism, which is one of the reasons why I put him front and center. He would be my favorite pick in this draft. Jermaine Johnson comes in at 255. another edge that could fall in that area. Aiden Hutchinson should go sooner. He's at 6'7", 260, so he'll play in that range. But those guys are super high. So yes, I would like an edge that size, like Travon Walker. Absolutely.
Yeah, and you're playing a 3-4 base, but going to be a lot of 4-2-5. You could use obviously that edge setter, but the pass rushing ability and the tools and athleticism to get after the quarterback in a top 10 pick comes first. And we got
Kanaile. That's my friend. He did come in saying Baker Mayfield. Actually, I didn't realize he came in with 2 comments because that one's joking. You don't want Baker Mayfield here. So wide receiver when little confidence in the QB, and he actually might want Baker Mayfield because Scott's an Oklahoma guy. He's a boomer sooner. Wide receiver when little confidence in the quarterback. Exactly. Yeah. You know, if I got Marcus Mariota, whose greatest weapon are his legs, why am I going to go 6 foot, 190-pound speedster at wide receiver? It just the receiver position, it just does not make sense to me in this class. Yes. Oh, Scott, who do you have at receiver? Nobody. I get it. Trust me, I do. Yeah. But you're going to waste 2 years of his eligibility, you know, basically it's almost like college with these contracts. It's almost like college. You got 5 years. You got a 4-year deal and you got a 1-year option. So you got 5 years of cost control on these guys. And you're going to waste at least 2 of those without a quarterback if you take a receiver. So if I go defensive line, you know, offensive tackle, if I go corner, those guys are contributing and helping my team right away. Well, Scott, you said that 2022 is a wash and you're tanking anyway. What difference does it make? Wouldn't you rather have the best player for 2023? Yeah, I can get that argument too. I just think that you're still a quarterback away in 2023. And again, I think you're losing 2 years of a receiver instead of just one of a throwaway year of 2022. So I agree, Scott. And that's Kanaile. His name is Scott. I agree. I'm not just talking to myself. I do that a lot as well. Trust me. Wide receiver when so little faith in the quarterback. And he might actually be serious here with Baker Mayfield. Man. The Browns going to pick up his contract because the Falcons can't. You know, they got $55 million in dead cap money. For any of you college fans, and I know if you're in Georgia, you're a college fan. I said, let me put it this way. Harsh probation is losing 8 scholarships. If everybody else can sign 25 and you can only sign 16 or 17, that's considered a hammer. That's where the Falcons are in the salary cap right now. They've lost a quarter of their salary cap to guys that aren't going to be on the team. And Julio Jones and Matt Ryan. So they're on probation this year. It's crazy.
And going back to Scott's comment about wide receiver, again, this talks about quarterback again. Falcons are a place where obviously you can have wants as far as the direction and the specific positions, but this is a terrible roster. And you have a shopping list that is so long that guess what? You might have to go to multiple grocery stores in order to fill out this list. So if you come across a wide receiver that you like in the first 100 picks, I wouldn't take one at 8 this year. That's more so to do with the specific class. But heck, even 2, the Falcons have 2 second-round picks and 2 third-round picks. You take 2 guys there, I would have no issue with it because, again, this is a long-term building block and you're checking off needs long-term. And let's say use a recent example. The Bengals took T. Higgins before they drafted Joe Burrow, I believe. Do they care that they have T. Higgins, had T. Higgins 1 season before Joe Burrow? No, they're happy as a freaking pig in mud that they got a good wide receiver. Another one, the Chargers, taking Mike Williams 2 years before landing Justin Herbert. Well, I mean, it's better to have Mike Williams there than we're not quite ready for that wide receiver yet. The Broncos, I mean, not for the draft, but Broncos drafted Cortland Sutton. They paid Cortland Sutton. They brought in Tim Patrick and paid Tim Patrick before they got Russell Wilson. They built the environment to make it enticing to bring in Russell Wilson. Without those guys there, Russell Wilson doesn't want to come here. So in the end, I think we do want to have like specific plans as far as positions or whatnot, but in the end, the board dictates it. The individual players' talents and your evaluation of those players dictates your direction. So again, at 8, I don't think that's the case this year, but second round, third round, absolutely.
And people talk, look at the Bengals, look at Joe Burrow, they got Joe Burrow and then they went wide receiver when they had all these other needs. No. Back up. The Bengals spent about $300 million in free agency. before they got Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. The
Yeah.
Falcons are 3 years away from the Cincinnati Bengals plan. That's at earliest 2024 and maybe 2025, where they've got the money in 2023 to spend, and then the money in 2024 to spend, and then draft 2025. If you want to use the Cincinnati Bengals as an example, 2025 is the earliest that can happen for the Atlanta Falcons, based on the amount of money they can spend and the draft picks that they can use. That's your timeline. That's your timeline there. Cody coming in saying, what about running back? We still need one also. I wouldn't mind one in the later rounds.
Yeah.
I wouldn't use one anywhere before the third, because I think the Falcons are actually okay at running back. Mike Davis is better than you could see last year, because Mike Davis is not a make a guy miss in the offensive backfield. When Mike Davis could get running north and south, he was pretty good. When he was having to break a tackle 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage or make a guy miss behind the line of scrimmage, he wasn't as effective. So, and then I think they brought back Kadri Allison, and they signed Damian Williams. So, and then you got Cordero Patterson coming back. So I think running back is actually okay relative to the rest of the roster.
Yeah, and also running back, you talk about wide receiver wasting years. Is a case for wide receiver for sure. I think those guys are coming in more developed than we've ever seen, thanks to the 7-on-7s and the 11 personnel and the air raids. I mean, these guys understand spacings, route stems, getting off press, etc. More typically used to be, year 3, year 4, that wide receiver finally starts to understand the NFL game. Now it's, halfway through their rookie year, if not their rookie year. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, these guys are breaking rookie records because of the way the game's going. Running back, though, this is even 100 billion times more true for running backs. You draft a running back, it's essentially a rental. You're driving them for 4 years, you're leasing them, and then after that, you're washing your hands of it. I think that anybody who pays a running back a long-term second contract is pretty foolish, or extremely risky. You could have a generational player you still want to pay like that, like Derrick Henry, but for the most part, running back is from the get-go, they need to be contributing, and then you need to maximize them, squeeze all the juice you possibly can over the first 4 years of that contract. And we keep talking about this Falcons team being years away. You're drafting a running back early this season, and by the time this team is probably ready to compete, let's say 2024 at the earliest. So 2 full seasons from now coming past. You only have 2 years left of control of that running back. And it's not even that good of a running back class either. So I think that not this year. If one falls to you, let's say, that you really like for your scheme, and it's really important for how you run your scheme, your second pick of round 3 through round 5, okay. You're bringing in a cost-controlled asset. That's a good range for a running back. But this year specifically, I just don't see it being a priority. That's the smelly tree hanging on your car, your dash rearview mirror, where you don't even have an engine right now. Your wheels are all flat. Your carburetor's falling apart. Blah blah blah. 2 of your seats are missing. Your windows are busted. Yeah, you don't need to worry about how your car smells right now.
And Clee coming in saying Sam Williams, Ole Miss edge, had twice the sacks Travon Walker did last season. 1, good point. 2, very different schemes. Travon Walker was not asked to rush a passer. He was asked to do a job. They had other guys, because that Georgia defense was so talented, that they could ask Travon Walker to basically occupy a space and funnel things back in or hold guys down, and he did. And he did. So you wonder, I'm like, okay, is that because he wasn't capable of doing anything else? No, he's 6'4", 272 pounds, running 4.5. He's capable of doing a lot of things. Let's turn him loose and see what happens. And you can't complain about the results. He won a national championship. So I know. And how old is he, Nick? Did you say he was 20 this year?
He was 20. This last year was 20.
He was 20 this year. He's a baby. He's a baby. That's how Kyle Pitts started last year at 20 years old. I think he's got an October birthday, whereas I think Calvin really turned 24 his rookie season. So he was 3 years older than Kyle Pitts, despite the fact that they both came out after 3 years of college.
Yeah, Scott, this one makes me think of also, just pivoting it back, how many sacks did Odafe Owe have his last year at Penn State? How much did that matter in the end? Draft trades,
different schemes and different usages. You can't say, well, if it was a running back and they couldn't run the ball, but they tried to run the ball. No. Georgia won a national championship very much so on the back of that defense. Yeah. So, he did his job. Now, what else can he do? I'm real interested to figure out. However, Sam Williams, yes, if you can look over, if you're satisfied with his answers and the look into the assault case that he had, and you can get him in the third, the Atlanta Falcons and Arthur Blank are, one, they're in a position, two, they've got enough draft capital that they could take a flyer on him and kind of push the character issues to the back. Three, you're willing to take Deshaun Watson. Four, this guy's a first-round talent that you can sneak in a Sam Williams with 9 other draft picks, and if for some reason you quietly usher him out the door for the wrong reasons later, no harm done. But you're looking at a 6'4", 265-pound, 4.46 edge who could be a 10 or 12-year, 10 sacks a year guy.
Yeah.
I'd be thrilled with Sam Williams, the football player. He's just got to pass everything else.
Yep, and sometimes those are the things where it's like, listen, here's the information. These teams have way more resources to dig into this and ask questions. And, they're talking to Sam Williams, middle school principal. They're talking to his neighbor from his childhood neighborhood. So those are things that we can't answer. These teams are definitely
cops.
Talking to people, coaches, et cetera, et cetera. They're going to have way more information. These teams put in crazy amount of resources. I've heard it said multiple times that your draft scouts your regional scouts are as much private investigators as they are scouting tapes, traits, and everything, because they have to figure out what makes these guys ticks and everything behind them as well, their character and football intelligence, blah, blah, blah. So Sam Williams, we have the facts as far as the battery was dropped. He's a very athletic football player. Really hot and cold motor on tape. Doesn't have any interest in setting an edge right now on tape at Ole Miss, but incredible tools. But the battery is out there. Different teams are going to have different levels of acceptance for that. Some teams will be completely off their board because of that. Some teams will be like, oh, he hasn't done anything bad in a while. We're going to be okay. But we'll see how it plays out. No doubt about it. Freaky talent at the edge rushing spot.
Yeah, he's got that bounce to it. They call him twitched up is the phrase of the day I like to talk about. And Todd says, wouldn't it be easier to talk about what the Falcons don't need? Never mind, that would be a short topic. That's okay. We can do it because it will be a short topic. What they don't need, cornerback 1. That doesn't mean you don't take a quarterback 1 because you need more than one quarterback. A pass-catching tight end. Okay, I'm done.
That's about it. I mean,
everywhere else that you draft.
Right guard,
but you need guard. So left or right, you do need an offensive guard. You do need a center. Everywhere else that you draft, and kicker.
Yeah.
Younghoe, who's great. Those 3 players you don't need. Everything else fits a need. So I don't want to. I hear it's like if I complain about wide receiver, well, you need a wide receiver. I know. You need 3 wide receivers. I know. There is not another place that you could draft a player that doesn't fill a hole.
Yep.
Impossible.
Yep.
Left tackle. Evan Neal over Jake Matthews. Slide Jake Matthews over to the right. Wouldn't happen. But yeah, I'll take a tackle. Absolutely. I'll take a cornerback for sure. EJ comes in. He says, Travon Walker or Sauce Gardner would be amazing for the Falcons. Travon Walker, edge. 275-pound edge. If they go 4-3, because Dean Pease says, okay, I want to retire. If they go 4-3, Travon Walker becomes a viable 4-3 defensive end or a stand-up Sam, outside linebacker. So Sauce Gardner, cornerback out of Cincinnati with length, speed, swagger, opposite A.J. Terrell. Yeah, I'll take that for the next 10 years for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm very much a believer. Why would the Falcons draft a cornerback? They already have A.J. Terrell. I am also a believer that drafting to create an identity and a strength is just as viable of a pathway as it is, drafting to work on weaknesses and whatnot. And maybe this is being influenced by the 2015 Denver Broncos, but when you have a high volume of top 20, top 15 level cornerbacks, it creates a bottleneck for opposing teams. And again, it talks about spacing. It's like having 3 amazing perimeter defenders in basketball. What you can do on the inside then and the help you can give totally changes. And so I'd have no issue with Sauce Gardner as well. Maybe even there's a conversation there for Derek Stingley after his pro day, and if everything came back clean as far as his medical and mental background checks. But we got Keith Weaver coming in here saying, would you guys drive Jelani Woods out of Virginia?
Draft.
Okay.
Yeah, draft.
Yep. Draft Jelani Woods out of Virginia. I don't think I'll drive him. He's too big probably to get in my car. 6'7",
normally you say
260.
yes, I would drive Stephen Means out of Flowery Branch. Yes, I would.
Yes.
I'll give him the ride.
But Jelani Woods, he tested really well. His relative athletic score is very high, very long arms, good frame, et cetera, et cetera. Played the cowboy quarterback kind of tight end position there at Oklahoma State, then transferred to Virginia and caught, I think it was 8 touchdowns in 11 games this year. While he is a good athlete, he's very herky-jerky. I would not say he is a fluid athlete. He's more of a build-up speed kind of athlete than anything else. I'd be looking at him. I don't know what number. Actually, I do.
I just pulled it up. I pulled it up. So 82, the pick that they got for Matt Ryan would be the earliest I would consider that. 82,
I was going to say
back of the third, because the Falcons go 74, 82, 114. So I would, at 82 would be the soonest I would consider Jelani Woods.
I also wonder if, I think he can develop into a good blocker, but he's not a totally dominant blocking tight end. And you already have Kyle Pitts. I mean, you do want to run more, 12 personnel.
And
but
Kyle can be, Kyle ends up as a wide receiver a lot. And you're going to hear that from his agent when his contract comes up.
Yeah, but I think with the tight end position in today's NFL, because their EPA per play is just so much smaller than wide receivers and opposing defenses, it used to be, even 5 years ago, that if you played 12 personnel, we're going to line up in base. If you played 21 personnel, we're going to line up in base, the defenses. Now teams are like, I don't give a hoot if you're playing 12 or 21 personnel. I'm going to play nickel. I'm going to play 2 high safety shells. So you either need a tight end that is such a freak athlete that he's beating safeties and linebackers regardless, or he is such a good blocker that opposing teams have to account for him in the run game as far as gap filling, run fits, et cetera, et cetera. So, and I don't know if I see Jelani Woods as that right away. So you mentioned it. What the pick was that? 84, 82 for
82.
Maybe at 82.
Maybe.
I might sit there at 114 and be like, listen, I like Jelani Woods, but I also really like K. Otten. I also really like Daniel Bellinger.
Mm-hmm.
If I have to come away with a tight end there, I'm going to sit there and wait. I'm going to get somebody else and then take one of those tight ends to kick off the day 3 of the draft.
Yeah, to me, it means you're using Kyle Pitts more as a stand-up guy, which is certainly possible.
Yeah.
He's a mismatch wherever he is. He's open. Kyle Pitts is open. You might have to force it, high, but he's open.
I mean, he could be an X. He could be a traditional X receiver. He's that type of athlete.
He probably was in high school. Joe Cannon says, how do y'all feel about James Houston, the edge rusher from Jackson? I always get Jackson to Jacksonville State. It's Jackson State. I believe that's the Gamecocks. How do you feel about edge rusher from Jackson State? Great athlete. Huge production. Transferred from Florida because he wanted to get consistent playing time, and he got it. He had huge production in Jackson State, which you would expect. I believe he ran in the 4.5s at his pro day with a 40-inch vertical leap at 250-plus pounds. So he's somebody that people should be paying more attention to and keeping a good look after. And I don't see him in any of these mocks. So PFF is sleeping on him. So I think bringing him in, if you use a later round pick on him because other people are overlooking him, absolutely. James Houston would be a solid pick, can do a job. No character concerns there, and absolutely a really, really good athlete.
Well, I'm reading about him right now, and you say no character concerns. He was dismissed from Florida for
that was early, and he finished at Florida though. He was a grad transfer.
Yep. I think the biggest thing that stands out here for me, there's a couple things that are obviously against him here, and it was Jackson State. He did graduate with a degree in educational sciences, so good for him. He's going to be 24 years old this year, which for an edge rusher isn't ideal, but holy mother of God. He's barely over 6 foot, 34.5-inch arm lengths. That dude is a pterodactyl.
Oh, he's 6'4". When you look, we equate height with length.
Yeah.
So he's basically 6'5", 6'4", 6'5", because it's the length that matters. It doesn't really matter how high your head is.
Especially with edge rusher. I mean, you're talking about leverage. He has a golden ticket for leverage. It's one reason that I really love Arnold Ebiketie so much. Oh, he's 6'1". Well, he's got like 35-inch arm length. That dude's freaking, he looks like Slender Man out there. It's brilliant. So no issue with that. It's kind of like basketball players in today's NFL. Again, we keep talking about basketball. I've been watching the NBA playoffs some, so it's on my mind. Watching the NBA playoffs, I actually want to say this the other day. Sidebar real quick. it just makes me so mad because I see all these guys and like, that should be an edge rusher. That should be an
That
offensive
could be a wide
tackle.
receiver.
That should be a wide receiver. Yeah.
It's worse when you watch the high school and college stuff because you know that these guys, when you're watching the high school guys, you're like, he's a 6'4" athlete playing shooting guard. I'm like, dude, you're not gonna. They only have 12 players on scholarship in basketball. They got 25. They're going to give out 2,500 scholarships in football, and you could get one of them as a wide receiver. I get it.
Just takes me.
Savannah is like that in Georgia. Savannah is a big area, lots of athletes. I'm like, why do no football players come out of Savannah? And I went to a basketball tournament where 2 teams were coming out of Savannah. I was like, oh, that's why. They're all on the basketball team. There's all the athletes. But Joe, yes, James Houston would be a good addition to any team.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's keep it rolling here. We got Chris Walker. I can't click the things, but he's talking about other tight ends too in this class. He likes Jake Ferguson from Wisconsin and Chase Allen from Nebraska late in the draft for picking another tight end. Yeah, definitely. And I have not been paying attention as much to the press conferences and whatnot. Have they mentioned anything as far as identity and personnel wants for the Falcons going forward? Because we know that the Falcons, Arthur Smith with Tennessee really did love to use 2 tight end sets, very heavy in 12 personnel. And with, I guess with Kyle Pitts, you can kind of say you're in anything all the time anyways. But is that really a big key for them? Because I know they lost.
I think they would again. And I was disappointed. I'm sure he was too about, Hayden Hurst. It seemed like he could have had a really good year and didn't. There's an opportunity there with receivers going down, going out. Russell Gage was out for a while. Calvin Ridley was MIA for virtually the entire season. Julio Jones was gone. Your top guy is a rookie. It was really a chance for Hayden Hurst to step up, and he didn't. No. So can you get one of – and I don't know why. I'm not, blaming him or anything. I don't know what the extenuating circumstances were there. Could have been for whatever reason he left money on the table this year. But I do believe that they would use a second tight end fairly extensively if they had the guy. So it wouldn't surprise me at all. If you get a hard blocking, blue collar, solid hands tight end, I think he would get, and those aren't guys you use in the 3rd round. Those are guys you find later. I believe he would get plenty of action in an Arthur Smith offense.
Yeah, and this is one that's maybe a little bit harebrained from me, but the offensive tackle from Arizona State, Kellen Diesch, who is, 6'7", 305 pounds with 32-inch arm length or something crazy. Such a weird body type. The arm length is so short that, a lot of times tackles, if they don't make it on the outside, they kicked inside guard. Diesch can't do that. I'm curious if Diesch could become that, de facto extra blocking offensive lineman blocking tight end type, because he is a really smooth, good athlete. He's another one. I think he's going to be 25 years old. But I'm curious about his path. I mean, I don't know I can't think of many offensive tackles who have failed out to tight end, but he's one that intrigues me there.
It doesn't happen at this level, where they move but however, Parker Hesse, was he an Iowa guy? Was he an Iowa guy?
Yes, he was.
And he played, defensive end? He did not play tight end.
He was an edge rusher, yeah.
But he was an edge. Okay, yeah. It doesn't work inside to outside. We talk about that with basically every position. It doesn't work inside to outside in football. It works outside to inside.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not good enough to play outside at receiver, you can play on the slot. If you can play outside, you can play inside.
Yep.
Same thing with tight end. If you outgrow the tight end position, they move you inside to tackle. If you're not good enough for tackle, they move you inside to guard. That's the way it goes. So when Hesse, I'm like, okay, he's an edge guy. That makes sense. He was already a mirror. They just flip sides on him. So someone like that. But Joe said he's a solid blocker and has really good hands. He might get a chance. He was bounced in and off the practice squad enough, yo-yoed up and down like that. Oh, who was that poor kicker they had that I swear it was every single week. It became like a running joke on Twitter about copy and paste. So-and-so's been released. And then he ended up actually playing, I think, with the Packers or somebody. I know, cool story, bro. I can't remember his name. But there was Parker Hesse was in and out of the team a lot.
Yeah, I like Parker Hesse, good player at Iowa. He's more of your H-back tight end. He's coming out of the backfield, more fullback tight end hybrid, where I'm talking about somebody who is truly a hulking behemoth, standard Y tight end. And he's talking about Jeremy Ruckert here. He's Jeremy Ruckert from Ohio State. That's another guy I should have mentioned there when I said why take tight end at 84 in Jelani Woods when I think there's going to be a clumping of tight ends in that range where you know how I am, Scott. I am all about the value proposition, and I very much tier guys unless I'm really emphatic about a certain player. But typically I tier guys, and the best strategy is if I think somebody's close enough, just get the last guy on the tier every single time, and you're going to be coming out with surplus value. And Jeremy Ruckert, I think, is Cade Otton, Jelani Woods, Daniel Bellinger, all those guys kind of in that area, late round 3, early round 4. I'd sit there and wait and take one early round 4 if I was in charge, if the board did fall that way.
One of the interesting measurements that Jelani Woods had was 24 reps on the bench, which led tight ends, which, okay, why 24? Why is that important? Because he's got 34-inch arms and he's 6'7".
Yeah.
So that's power with that much leverage and strength with those long arms. The guys that win the bench press all the time are the guards and centers that, just basically have to bump their chest because their chest is all the way up to their hands. Yeah. So being 6'7" with 34-inch arms doing 24 tells me he's strong. He's plenty strong. Now, can we convert that to being a good blocker too? But again, 84 at the earliest for me on Woods. Now, we talk corner. We talk some of the wide receiver, not at 8. But tell me 2 or 3 guys to check out in the second round, 43, 58, 74, early third, that might be there, that could be guys to help fill the need for the Falcons. Because obviously there's a need there. There's a need at wide receiver.
What position specifically? Wide receiver?
Wide receiver, yep.
Okay. I think somebody that is going to go around pick 30 to 50 is George Pickens from Georgia. Mm-hmm. He dealt with injury last year, but that dude's got some aerial acrobatic plays that you can't teach, and he's got decent arm length. His hands are teeny tiny, which is crazy for how good of catcher he appears to be on tape. But still, really good option there. You also have your guy, Christian Watson. I am a little bit concerned about Christian Watson. The athletic tools are there, but he dropped the ball a lot, and he plays like a 5 foot on tape. I feel like he plays like a 5'10", 180-pound wide receiver. So is he? I don't want to say soft, but like finesse. He should have been, mossing guys at North Dakota State. Go balls and just go up and get it. Didn't really see that so much. So I do like Christian Watson, but there's a little bit of concern there for me from the physicality standpoint. And then my guy, day 2, who I absolutely adore, Sky Moore. That's my guy. This guy's going to be good. I think he had the biggest hands at the wide receiver. I think he also had the most yards after catch of any wide receiver in this class. Western Kentucky used a lot of RPO, slants and glances, and he is really good off those kind of rolls. I think you could use him because of his body type. He's not AJ Brown thickness, but I think you could use him as a AJ Brown type-esque of role where, you're using that thicker yak wide receiver to get them the ball in space and let them do some things. We saw how good Arthur Smith was with AJ Brown in that role at Tennessee. That's a guy who, if he's there at whatever the pick the Falcons had, their first second round pick, if Sky Moore's there, I'd have absolutely zero issue taking him. And EJ mentions another one here, Calvin Austin, very niche kind of player there. Calvin Austin, because he is so small, does have decent arm length considering how small his frame is. It's not Wandale Robinson level of like, oh, you're in the second percentile arm length, which is concerning. But if you're looking for some dynamism, jet sweeps,
I bet he's in the second percentile for guys who are 5'8".
Oh yeah. No, for sure. He's up there. So those are the ones that stick out for me. Man, I'm stamping Sky Moore as my guy. I really, really, really like Sky Moore.
If the mock drafts are any indication, we'll run through in here in just a minute. The Falcons, if they want a receiver, they're going to need to take one at 43.
Yeah, they fall off.
The Pickens, no pun intended on George Pickens, but the Pickens start getting a little slim once you get past mid-second round. So if you try and wait to 58, we'll see. And we'll go through it and we'll take a look. But it seems like 10 to 12 guys could be off the board by the time we get to 58, the pick that we got for Julio Jones, that the Falcons got for Julio Jones. And then you're looking at traits. You're looking at some of the guys who might not have had the production but are speedy or have the size. You're looking at that stuff. But every time I do one of these drafts, I don't end up with a wide receiver because I'm addressing the trenches. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, why didn't you take another wide receiver? I'm like, because this guy was when I'm at 58, this guy was ranked 40, and my next wide receiver was ranked 80. I took the guy at 40. That's kind of how it works. And I need, trench play. So One more real quick, and then we'll get to a mock draft. Interior DL. So defensive ends, nose guards, 3-4. The chances Perrion Winfrey's sitting there at 43. I mean, not Perrion Winfrey, Travis Jones. I think Perrion Winfrey will be there. You got a chance at him at 43.58. About Travis Jones, is there any chance he lasts to 43, the big nose guard from UConn?
You're pushing it on that one. That's like right at the range where he could go. I think with the advent of the too high, not the advent, but the trend of teams playing more too high safety shells and lighter boxes, that the nose tackle is back. The value of the two gapping, strong, lengthy, space eating defensive tackle that can then therefore allow you to play lighter linebackers, less linebackers, is going to have higher value. So I think that Travis Jones is going to sneak his way into the first round. Back into the first round, somebody is going to see him and think that he is a run defense unto himself and take him there. And we are out of the era where the nose tackle isn't as valuable, where he was a lot of cover 3, full 7 guys in the box. Now you have 6 guys in the box. Having somebody with that length and size is very valuable. So I don't think he's going to be there. You never know, though. Also, I think it's a scarcity argument as well. There's just right now, I think the first 3 defensive tackles in Wyatt, Jordan, and Jones, I would say there's a pretty obvious delineation after those guys. So I think those 3 guys get gobbled up. They're all better than Christian Barmore last year as well, in my opinion.
Safety.
Love safety in this
there's
class.
There's one option that fills a need in a hurry.
Yeah.
Number 8. If Kyle Hamilton's at number 8, do you pull the trigger and take Kyle Hamilton at safety?
I need to see what the board looks like. Obviously, that's the very. Somebody said, "Oh, I'm excited for this podcast because it's the no nonsense one." Nick always got to have, oh yeah, of course, duh. No, I want to see what the board looks like. I think that there's a number of players that over Kyle Hamilton I'd be interested in. I love Kyle Hamilton. However, I was listening to a Caps analytics expert on the drafting of a safety position, and he talked about the body types and everything at the safety position, that you need to have a true freak athlete that can do everything to probably take a safety in the top. And while Kyle Hamilton is very good, this is also an extremely talented safety class as well. I love the tier 2 safeties in this class. I'm hoping that one falls to 64 for the Broncos and we just sprint to the podium. But I like Kyle Hamilton. You can find safeties. They're typically in the draft later on. They're not as much of an impact position. And if you took him, I'd be fine with it. I think he moves different. I mean, he never gave up. I think did he never give up a touchdown at Notre Dame? Either way, super valuable, versatile, good player. Maybe you can go a different direction. I think probably the earliest he comes off the board is 11 now, based on what I'm hearing. The earliest.
All right. We'll see if the Falcons take a quarterback, a wide receiver, and pass on Kyle Hamilton. I'm going to be pissed.
Okay. Well,
I'm going to be mad.
I will give you four other names, though, that tier 2 safeties need to be talked about in this class. And I'm almost upset the Broncos traded pick 40 because it was going to be a full-on assault of me screaming about the tier 2 safeties in this class. Lewis Cine from Georgia, freak athlete, one of the best downhill tackle filling players. You're talking about playing smaller linebackers or lighter boxes. That means your safeties are going to be in one-on-one situations in space as tacklers. No worries about Lewis Cine, freak. Jalen Petrie, I don't think anybody else in this class is even close to him as what he brings as far as physicality. He tackles and is in the box better than many linebackers in this class. You're talking about Troy Anderson being a linebacker. Jalen Petrie is better in the box than Troy Anderson is right now as a tackler and run filler. And he's playing the nickel. Incredible player. You have Jalen Brisker, who was playing with an injury last year, but he's super physical in the box. I think he can do a lot of different stuff for you. And then Travon Walker maybe was my baby at number 9 overall when the Broncos were picking there. Loved him early on. But my one true love in this class at overall is Daxton Hill. I don't know if we've talked about him enough on here.
We haven't talked about him at all.
We talked about him a bit because we talked about what a freak athlete he was. He was like the number 1 spark athlete in that safety class. But he played almost all the snaps at slot. He jumped out of the gym. He ran extremely well. And talk about length at the safety position, the cornerback position. He is so long. He's squat. He's thick. I think he's one of the rare players in this class that legitimately could play boundary cornerback. He could play slot. He could play single high. He could play 2 high. He could play in the box. He could do everything. And there was a lot of talk about with Kyle Hamilton. Kyle Hamilton doesn't have the athleticism to play boundary cornerback. I legitimately think Daxton Hill does. And Anybody if he doesn't go in the top 20 picks, he's going to be an absolute steal. I love
Okay.
Daxton.
Well, there we go. Well, let's see if we can adjust. We've talked about some of the needs, some of the players we think we can fill it. Now let's go through the mock draft. No trades. I did one last night with lots of trades, and I was freaking thrilled. I got a pretty good haul from the Saints and from the Ravens, and I ended up taking Jordan Davis at 14.
There you go. That's a good
one.
one.
At 14, I'm like, okay, I can pull the trigger on that one. I had Jermaine Johnson because the one player that is kind of a cheat on this one to me, of all the players that moved up, again, it's a zero-sum game. All the players that moved up, they actually moved Jermaine Johnson down. He's down to 32 on this board. So he was up in the teens before. So not Jermaine, Jeremy Johnson. But we're going to do no trades. So we're going to play this one straight up. And we're on the clock. We're going to get started. All right. So
there goes Walker at 4.
Yeah, Walker went off. So we don't have to choose him because I would take him. That would be my pick. I would take Sauce. I would take Aiden. I would take Kayvon. I would take Travon. Stingley is a maybe for me. Evan Neal and Icky. So that means the one guy of my top 7 that's still there is Kyle Hamilton.
Yeah.
But after we talked about all those things, and you look at their board, Charles Cross, I'm not sold on him at 8. If it was Evan Neal there or Icky, I would pull the trigger on that. I do like Kyle Hamilton. I don't want a wide receiver over Kyle Hamilton, which is what a lot of these are. And I get down here to the Devontae Wyatts and Bernard Ryman's, Nakobe Dean's, Jordan Davis of the world. In this case, I'd want to trade back probably if I wasn't sold on Hamilton. But in this case,
do we want to trade back? I know you said you did not do it, but this is unfortunate to see Evan Neal and Ike Mekwonu go right before you. If you want to just take Kyle Hamilton, call it good, that's fine. But you are right. This is somebody, for the love of God, come up here and get this pick. Because I
might go trade back. The Saints have the highest next pick. I might see what the Steelers. What will the Steelers? Okay, let's talk about this.
The Steelers make sense because this is a team that's been constantly linked with the likes of Malik Willis, and it sounds like they're going to be aggressive and try to go up and get him. So this actually is maybe realistic.
If I have at 20, if I'm moving down more than 2 spots, it's going to cost you a first rounder next year.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, and they still like that. I still have an 82% chance.
I would say 84 as well. Yep.
Can I get there?
34. Ugh.
Let's see.
Maybe give them a. Ooh.
No, so I can't go 84. What if I'm building for 2023 anyway?
Wait, why don't you get 84 and give them a day 3 pick back?
84 and give you 190.
Maybe like 151.
Doesn't really change it, but no.
Do they not offer you trades? Is that not on here?
No, they don't offer you trades on here. So I'm going to go 138, and that one's got a 70% chance. And you know what? I want a round 4 for next year too. There we go.
Boom.
So we did go down. It's the only time we're going to do it. So we traded down, and I ended up getting 20 next year. Steelers number 1, 138 in this draft, and a round 4 for next year.
And you know what? We both love Mike Tomlin a bit. We had a little bit of back and forth before the season started this year. The AFC North is loaded, Scott. I mean, you have Cleveland with Deshaun Watson probably going to play. There's no way the Ravens are going to have the injury luck they did last year. And you also have the reigning AFC champions in the Bengals. That Pittsburgh pick next year could be a top 15 pick. I know we love Mike Tomlin, but Mitch Trubisky, are you serious? The offensive line there, are you serious? So, all right, we're on the board now with the...
and this is when I want to be in the second round. I'd want to trade out of the first, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, in this case, do I want Devontae Wyatt at 20? Not really.
Yeah.
Bernard Ryman at 18. Sky Moore, he's all the way up to 22. Andrew Booth was getting some talk about being up there at one point, being higher than that.
Yeah.
Zion Johnson, I'm not sold on him. I think he's overranked on this. Tyler Smith, not yet seen. I really like Travis Jones.
This is a little early, though.
I mean,
there's your
Malik Willis is down here.
There's Jermaine Johnson.
This is the cheat for me. I would take Jermaine Johnson out of this bunch.
Let's take Jermaine Johnson. I think that he's good. But the thing that scares me about Jermaine Johnson is he is the anti-Odafe Owe. And let me explain that real quick. Jermaine Johnson last year, sacks galore, ACC Defensive Player of the Year. That's great. His pressures were very low. He did not actually get after the quarterback at a super high rate compared to his sacks. So I guess he's very good at converting pressures into sacks, but sacks aren't predictable. pressures and hurries are. So I actually think that Jermaine Johnson coming down here, I think another argument here to be had is that I think George Koloftis and Jermaine Johnson are closer than a lot of people are letting on. And I think Karloftis probably already went off the board.
Yeah, he
so
did. He probably went just a couple picks ago. 16 to the Saints.
So I think that Jermaine Johnson here I don't think this is cheating. I think Jermaine Johnson going from 12 to 16 is probably where I would be most comfortable with him. And 20, this is taking advantage of the board. I think this is probably about right for him. And also, this is ADP, 20 overall.
And Cody says, I believe Atlanta will take the best player available no matter position. That's what they said last year. That's relative, though. So this isn't their board. My board would have Jermaine Johnson up there is the best player available. That's why we're going to take him. Yep. I've taken him as high as 8. So my board would have Jermaine Johnson right now. So we're going to take Jermaine Johnson and address that edge right here. Because, one of the reasons he transferred was to get more consistent playing time. So he's still relatively new to the position.
All right. On the board again, pick 43.
And there's Josh. I can go back-to-back edge, and it wouldn't break my heart.
It wouldn't break my heart either. I mean, I think even higher than slightly higher than Josh is Drake Jackson for me.
You like him better?
I mean, last year was his 20-year-old tape where Josh Pascal is going to be 23 or 24 this year.
Okay.
And he tested really well, and his arm length, I think, was in the 96th percentile. I don't understand what happened to Drake Jackson from the combine to the pro day because Drake Jackson, there's David Ojabo too. I think that might be the play here, honestly, because
we've talked about 2022. We can redshirt that year.
Yeah.
Okay. We can use a redshirt year on David Ojabo while he gets healthy.
Yep. And that's essentially a first-round pick in 2023. Yeah. That's the way I would look at it. But as far who are we talking about prior to that? Talking about Drake Jackson. Oh yes, pro day. Combine showed up 250. Pro day 275. That's a month later, and 25 pounds difference. Crazy. I don't know what's going on.
He was sick too. Like was it Majai Sanders?
Yeah, I don't think he was sick. And I know USC had him playing at like 240 this year, and it wasn't good. Now he does have to add some physicality to his game. But because of the traits, he interests me a heck of a lot. So I
did like this pick, but knowing I could get, and again, you just went edge. Well, I need 2. Lorenzo Carter's on a 1-year deal, and he's a journeyman. He had a nice flash last year, but is he a considerable upgrade over Dante Fowler? Maybe. The Falcons had 4.5 sacks was their leading sacks. They had 18 on the year. They need pass rushers. They need 2. They need 3 edge guys that can play. You want to go into the season with Lorenzo Carter, Jermaine Johnson, and Ogundeji the other one? Maybe, but again, Ojabo might be out this year. And in a sense, we just got a 2023 first-round pick.
Yep.
So that would be 3 first-round picks next year because we're trading that pick for a 2023 first-rounder, and we used it to select David Ojabo. And I do like Abraham Lucas. I think he would be an immediate upgrade and a walk-in starter at right tackle for the Atlanta Falcons.
I will say one thing also about David Ojabo, and this will get
he's still there.
Might as well take him while we're saying this. But the thing about David Ojabo that is, Scott, this will get an eye roll from Scott. I know it will, but you can kind of cheat the system a bit when you draft David Ojabo because he suffered his injury at the pro day. When you draft him this year, you can put him on the non-football injury list. What does that do? And that means he's out for all the season. Okay, that's fine. You're drafting him for the future anyway. But what does putting him on the non-football injury list do and him not playing in 2022? It means that the last year of his contract becomes an option season. He becomes a restricted free agent. So you drafted him in the second round, but you're going to have a second round tender option. You're going to have a first round tender option. You're going to have an original round tender, which is the second anyway, but for cheaper. So I think this is a great play for the long term. You already talked about it. This is a rebuilding year, and you don't need to get impact from every single one of these players this season because it's a transition season for you anyway. So I think that's a great pick for you here. Taking David Ojabo. I think Abraham Lucas is a guy here, although I know you're probably interested in Troy Anderson right below him.
Yeah, I'd love Troy Anderson in this spot. I do need a right tackle more for this team.
Rarer. Talking about body types. It's rarer to find.
He's 6'6", 315, running a sub 540 and super, super strong. I love his core strength.
The shuttle also. Incredible shuttle. So we're on the board here. There goes Alec Pierce right before you.
And I could go interior. Oh, there goes Alec Pierce. That would have been nice. And see, that's what I said. The wide receivers, It's like, oh, why didn't you take a wide receiver? Because I didn't want Kyle Phillips at 74. That's why.
Yeah. Let's look at our wide receiver options because they kind of do fall off a tad, but could be looking at wide receiver. I do like Danny Gray, David
I
Bell,
like Romeo Doubs. Okay.
Wandale Robinson later on,
David Bell, meh.
Justin Ross. I like Bo Melton a lot. He's a
I
slot.
do like Bo Melton. I like the speed of Tyquan Thornton later, and I like the speed of Velus Jones later. Traits guys that can come in and maybe take the top off that I can definitely go later. Not a big fan of Ontario Drummond, and he's fallen to where he belongs.
Yep.
So if I get him in the 7th, okay.
So we should wait on wide receiver.
Yeah, and that's why it's like, well, you need wide receivers. I know, but I didn't go wide receiver early, and if I don't go wide receiver early, I'm not going middle.
Yep. And can we check out the tight ends real quick too? You can just, I know when you click it keeps the wide receivers there, which is so annoying. But keep scrolling. There's Jelani Woods, James Mitchell's still there, Jeremy Rucker's still there, K. Dotton's still there, Daniel Bellinger. See, this is screaming round 4 to me. So let's just go back to the overall board here and let's see what the chat is saying. I'll throw some out, Scott, because I
only did a 3-round mock.
Oh, it's only 3 rounds?
I only did a 3-round mock on this. I screwed it up, but we're at an hour anyway. So
okay. Well, let's look at the board here. You're talking about adding to the trenches here. That wouldn't be an issue for me at all. I really do like Marcus Jones if his shoulder checks out. I also really love Brian Cook, Kirby Joseph, a really good option. Scott, I love the safety class. I really, really do. Right now, the name for me that is a blinking light though is Dylan Parham. I know that you drafted a guard, 2 guards last season.
I used a 3rd and a 4th last year on guards / centers / right tackle in Jalen Mayfield and Drew Dahlman. They're not ready.
They're not ready.
They're not for sures by any stretch. So they could use competition. I got no problem with that.
I think Dylan Parham's the best player on the board here. And we're on the board again. Okay, we can talk secondary depth here. I also do think there's an argument at this late for Brian Asamoah, the first player on the board here who just keeps slipping. He's really good height, weight, speed. What's going on with linebacker with the Falcons? I know you brought in Rashaan Evans.
Evans and Deion Jones, depending on what they do with Deion Jones. Now, Deion Jones could be, if you're going to eat cap, you could eat a bunch of it this year too and add another $12 million in dead cap. You'd actually save a little bit of money this year. About $8 million that you would save, but you'd have a $10 million cap hit this year and a $10 million cap hit next year for Deion Jones. Otherwise, it's Deion Jones, Rashaan Evans, and Michael Walker, which isn't bad. That's not bad.
Yeah. Well, Brian Asamoah is really interesting to me because while he is very, very light for the linebacker position, 6th percentile weighing in at 226, but that's kind of what Deion Jones is
heavier than what they played last year, and Deion Jones and Foye Oluokun.
But what is really interesting for me is how broad he is. 93rd percentile wingspan, 79 inches for the safety position, and 61 arm length. But he tested like a freak athlete too. The 40-yard dash was 4.56, which is really good for a safety. 80th percentile vertical jump, 85th broad jump. Even when you change his specs to a safety, he's still extremely athletic, above the 50th percentile for almost everything, still 70th for the broad jump. So if you're looking for somebody to live and dime, kind of a linebacker / box safety hybrid that can offer you some very good upside as far as special teams as well, he does interest me here. I think the best player on the board, though, right now that I'm looking at, the guy that's going to be first off the board out of everybody that is available, because I just saw him and I don't know why he's so late. It's Cam Jergens. I think Cam Jergens is in play at pick 64 for the Broncos from everything I'm hearing. So to get him here at 82 is silly. Some teams have him as the number 1 center prospect over Tyler Linderbaum.
You talked me into Asamoah on this one because I'm not convinced that Deion Jones is going to be there come September.
And he's a really good athlete. I really love the body type. If you're looking for somebody to come in the box and funnel the run to and be physical at the point of attack, he's not the dude. But coverage player, length, body type, space. I mean, he's really interesting and a good athlete and fluid too. I really like his hips. So let's zoom out now.
Got a B+ for that draft.
Got an A. You got a B+ for the trade.
That's what I meant for the trade.
Yep.
A- on Ajabo. Again, I think of Ajabo as I just traded my 2nd round pick. I traded number 43 overall for a 2023 number 1.
And you got another 2023 number one in that Steelers trade, which is big for a team. You're talking about a team that's rebuilding.
Ready to
Now
compete
you
in
have
2023.
Yep. Let's say for some reason the Falcons are picking at 5 next year and out of range for CJ Stroud / Bryce Young. Guess what? You have a card in your pocket now where you can pair 5 and let's say 14 from the Steelers and move up to go get your quarterback. So that additional first round pick next year, I think, gives you a lot of
That's
flexibility.
why when I said that, when I make a trade, it's going to have to include a first rounder next year, because I want to hedge that they're just not quite bad enough to draft in the top 2, but being able to move in that spot. And then if you say, okay, I'm going to send you 5, 18, and my 2024 number 1. All right. Okay. Because it's going to cost you 2 number 1s to move up to that spot for one of those guys next year. I promise you.
Yep. But now you have the flexibility.
On that note, coming in orange, our first and last. So aloha, hello, and goodbye from Ethan across the pond, giving us support, keeping the lights on here. I like to say, keeping my forehead nice and shiny. Thank you, man. We love you. And I hope you have a good weekend. And sorry I didn't do the 7-round mock on that. We were getting a little bit late. But you see, the 20 to 35 range gets a little iffy. You're like, eh. And then you get in that 40 or 50 range, you're like, oh, I want him there. 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 So trading back, we passed on Cam Jergens, Sam Williams. For me, if you want a receiver, you need to take one early. If you want to build up the trenches, you can trade down and accumulate picks, which to a certain extent the Falcons have done. They've got 43, 58, 74, 82, and 114. They've got 5 picks between 43 and 114. And then go and get your, a future star at number 8. Nick, I think that's going to do it for us. I want to say again, thank you to the DWI guys coming in from England. We will be 5 days a week next week on Mile High Huddle on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday morning. And then we will do a post-draft reaction show here Friday morning when we break down the first round. Yes, we get to talk about that. So Wednesday on this channel, on Forging the Falcons, we'll do a pre-draft preview. And then on Friday, we'll do a first round breakdown. We're here. It's happening.
Yeah, it is happening.
Nick, any last comments?
Overall, fun show today. Thank you, Ethan, for coming in and supporting us and keeping the lights on. Scott and I will have each a cup of coffee for that one. And fun show. Really excited to see what happens next week. Excited to be live 6 days next week because we're going to be live most of Saturday as well, I imagine. So having a lot of fun. Appreciate everyone coming in. And we will, hopefully everybody has a good weekend. And we'll see you later.
Yep. Appreciate you being here. Again, you can catch us on Mile High Huddle on YouTube Monday at 9:30 a.m. We're at 9:30 all next week, either here or the Mile High Huddle Broncos channel. And we're talking a lot of different players and different teams. So if you're a Falcons fan, if you're a Broncos fan, it doesn't really matter. Hopefully you'll find something that you can enjoy out of the two of us. Until next time, have a great weekend, everybody, and we appreciate you being here.